name is V. Fixmore O'Rise. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm the CEO and founder of Astig Planning. And I founded Astig Planning about 3.5 years ago after being in the private sector, and then was working with a nonprofit, and really wanted to focus planning on social and racial justice, and particularly focusing on climate change impacts. I was very honored actually to receive this award. You know, when I started this company, I had lots of colleagues who were like, "Are you going to say climate change? Are you going to put that on your website?" And my response was, well, if you don't want to talk about climate change, I don't think this is going to be a working relationship. But it's always felt on the edge. I feel like we are pushing the edge of what does it look like to do planning that is really focused on climate change and social and racial justice. And I think that probably one of the things that is most helpful anyway when you're looking at the climate change impacts and planning is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of these policies already exist, and I think that we really try and make sure that we're actually reaching people, that it's not just done in a decision-making silo. We want to make sure that we are moving at the speed of trust. And so when we come and approach like a community or a county or, whatever comprehensive planning we're doing, we try and make sure that we are reaching out to those that typically aren't usually engaged in planning. A lot of people talk about stakeholders. We really try and talk about community members, and particularly underestimated community members. So your BIPOC people, LGBTQ+, people that are housing insecure, food insecure. So we want to make sure that we are especially planning for those that are most vulnerable to those climate change impacts. And whether we're doing plans on flood resilience or, campus racial justice, we make sure that we spend time with people and that we're elevating as many voices as possible. I find that particularly people who are underestimated are very resilient. And so we have a lot to learn. And I think every community is different. So if you really want to, have that community impact, you really need to make sure that you have that trust or you have that buy-in from the community members, that there's a tendency to do more harm than good, whether that's short-term or long-term. Last year, we won 2 planning awards, statewide planning awards for our Flood Resilience Action Plan in Coralville. And that was a joint project with the University of Iowa, and it was part of their larger IWA project. So they did flood resilience action plans and I think a total of 8 watersheds. And so we were kind of the, the Clear Creek watershed adjacent. And I believe we won those awards because our approach was, from the outset, we partnered with the Coralville Community Foundation, Food Pantry, and another local firm, Impact 7G, who was sort of representing kind of like the business side of Coralville. One of the things that we really focused on was, making sure that we were talking to as many people as possible. And gaining those insights from people who were like housing insecure and food insecure, and that it was also translated in different languages. From a community perspective, people really started to feel that buy-in. They started to look at like, oh, right, like the church down the street does have cots available when there's a flood. Like I forgot about that, or I didn't know that. Or where's the hardware store I can get a generator? Or, they started identifying all of these things that were assets. And then they also identified, hey, this street is a street that floods every time. We get an inch of rain and like you can't cross it. So, and then we go back to Public Works and we, work with them. And I say all that to say, at the end of the day, I felt like we really put together a plan that the community had identified what they were proud of, what they knew was working, and then also some areas where they needed some help. I'm really proud of that because the plan that came from that was really from the people. We were able to do asset mapping from the ground up, hosted with people that were community members that had experienced flooding, and in the same room as the mayor and city council members. I think from there, we were able to get people to kind of wrap their heads around what does it mean to be resilient, and how's Coralville different? all of that analysis to put together a plan that was able to identify some of those gaps. Like Coralville has done an incredible job from a riverfront protection strategy. Like they have all of the, all of the mechanisms in place that millions of dollars have been spent. So what we were doing was we were going back and saying, you did an awesome job at that. And there are still longstanding community issues, such as displacement when the flood happened. How can we make sure that that doesn't happen again? And if it does happen again, what are some potential solutions? So it's a work in progress. It's not over. We don't like to have the plans sit on the shelf. We want to make sure that we're still in communication with the mayor. We're still in communication with the community development director, and seeing like, how can we move this forward? What are some opportunities? So really proud of that. And I'm hopeful that, the Flood Resilience Action Plan in Coralville is an approach that can be applied in other places. We actually wrote a guidebook that we got an award for that was, how do you do this type of planning in like multiple disasters, COVID, derecho, like how do you do that and still come out with a community-led plan? So receiving this award feels like, we've arrived, that people are starting to finally take notice that we are really trying to do the hard work to make the world a better place, to make Iowa what we really hope and envision that it will be, a resilient, place where we can enjoy our natural resources and have clean water and clean air, and do that within the framework of social and racial justice.